We've talked a lot about COVID misconceptions on this show since the pandemic began, and now a new study called the COVID States Project shows people with misconceptions about the pandemic are more confident in their expertise than those who are armed with scientific information. So joining us with more is CTV science and technology specialist Stan Riskin. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right. Were you surprised by this result?
Well, you know what? I was surprised because it's the first time this phenomenon's been shown for the pandemic. But overall, there's this well-known effect in psychology called the Kruger-Dunning effect, where if you take people on a task like making a joke, throwing a fastball, hosting a morning show, whatever it is, and you're going to have a range of abilities. But when you ask people, how do you think you did compared to everybody else? The people at the bottom of those abilities, the people like in the 12th percentile of overall ability, are going to rate themselves as very, very good. And people think it's because they just don't know how much they don't know. They think of themselves as very competent because they don't realize how much they don't know.
Yeah, we get into these echo chambers that reinforce something that you have, but maybe it's not a broader style of research. Some of the COVID misconceptions around vaccine are the vaccines will alter DNA, they contain microchips, or they can cause infertility. That one got a lot of headlines. None of them have been proven to be true, but at least 16% of people in the study believe at least one of them and are 46% unsure about at least one. So what are some of the reasons that people have these ideas or these misconceptions?
Well, the good news is that overall misconceptions are going down in the States. So this is a long-term study, and they've been tracking for a while. And if you compare to when vaccines were first rolled out in the States, misconceptions are being believed less often now. But it's shifting. People with graduate degrees and people who are well-educated have shifted away from misinformation and towards the scientific consensus. But what's happened is you've seen this political shift in the United States where people who watch Fox News or identify as Republican are getting different streams of information. So they right now are the people who are most likely to be believing some of this misinformation. And as you said, 46% of Americans are unsure about at least one of these misinformation points.
You know, you talk about the United States, but we've seen a political shift here in Canada. That idea around vaccines has now shifted over to mandates. People are confident enough to get in a truck, to drive across the country and to stay in a city unwelcome for 3 weeks.
Sure, yes. Well, so the big sort of take home from this study that really sort of knocked my socks off is that if somebody calls themselves an expert, if they say, I've done my work, I think I'm an expert, they are 9 times more likely to believe misinformation than somebody who doesn't believe information. People who know what they're talking about don't call themselves experts because they say, I know who the experts are, I listen to the experts, or I take information from the experts, but I'm not one of them. People who really don't know what they're talking about believe that they're at the very front. They say, well, you know what, I've done my own research, I'm basically Isaac Bogosh now. What I say goes, right? And so this is exactly what's happening with this misinformation in the States. Here we have the data from the States, but you can believe it's happening in Canada too, where people who really don't know how much they don't know think they know everything.
Dr. Bogosh would be the first one to say, I am not the definition of an expert.
Well, that's just it. That's what an expert
To your
sounds
point.
like, right? Somebody that really knows their field has a good sense of how much they don't know and where the limits of their abilities are. And people that are new to something, I mean, they've shown this with like, you know, get in front of a crowd and tell some jokes. You watch TV and you see a stand-up comedian, you think, nah, how hard could it be? I could probably do that. But somebody who's gotten in front of an audience and tried to tell jokes has probably been humbled and knows how hard it is to do that job. And so that kind of a difference, you know, when you apply it to epidemiology, somebody that hasn't done that research themselves, maybe it looks just a little bit easy because people like Bogosh are just so good at communicating it.
Yeah, and we're so grateful for the time that they give us to share their expertise, whether they want to call it that or not, with the rest of the country. Dan, we have to leave it there. Thanks so much, and happy Family Day to you.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.